Hi, Brandon. How you doing? Thank you for posting your work here. I've got your post up right here, so let's go ahead and take a look. So it looks like you're describing what you're going to talk about in the bio, in um, the written portion. So, and I'll address that in a second. And then you go straight to your sketches. It looks like you've got a front and a back for two different versions. So there's a lot we have to address here, and then I want to talk about the assignment in general. So now the first thing I want to mention is that you haven't included all of the requirements here. And I'm going to jump over here to the week 5 final project part 1 Nobel Prize poster research and thumbnails first iteration directions page. Okay, and then what we're going to look at here is here's project instructions. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we come down and we see the instructions for the assignment itself, right? But then down here, this is the milestone, week 5. This is what to do during week 5 for this project. Okay, research your laureate and provide their name, biography, paragraphs, and photo. So right here, you're talking about what the paragraphs will consist of, but you actually have to include the biography in paragraphs. So you can write the biography yourself, or you can just go out and search a biography information on your chosen laureate and then compile the biography as such. But regardless, the biography information has to be present in this presentation. So be sure you make that change moving into your final presentation for Sunday's submission. So we need the actual biography information on your laureate. Then we come over here and we see create several thumbnail sketches of various layouts for both the front and the back. So you've got two versions of the poster, and we can interpret the word several in different ways. But I'm going to go ahead and interpret it to mean at least 3, but it definitely doesn't mean just 2. So you want to include at least one more set of sketches for a front and the back. Okay, now don't forget, we also have to include by the biography paragraphs that I mentioned. Okay, you need the photo. You need whatever photo you're going to include on the back of the poster. You need to include that in this presentation, and then you need to show the dates and the events of your timeline. Okay, so there's a considerable amount of missing information in this assignment that I would recommend that you include for your final submission coming in due on Sunday. All right, let's go through what we have here. I mentioned the type, so let's go straight to the sketches. Now, the sketches requirements I've got in the same place, so I'm just going to this instructions area, but I'm going to move that over to the side so we can take a look. Now, as we can see in the front of each of the posters, you've got the laureate's name, but I'm not real sure why is that in that typeface, and what relevance does it have to the subject matter or the concept of the poster. That's the main thing, is that we need to start drawing ties and making connections between our design decisions and the content of the project. Also, on the front of the poster, don't forget you need to include some sort of subhead or tagline that supports the person in some way. Okay, so some sort of subhead. So we see that here, and then the other front of the poster doesn't have that subhead either. So I'm going to guess that this is the front of your first example and this is the back of your first example. Okay, but then you go immediately to something that I'm not real sure what that is, and then this looks like another front. So what I would recommend in your presentation is to present as expeditiously as possible. Don't make your viewer have to go wonder what fits together. Label them, present them in a way that makes sense chronologically, so that the viewer is able to look at these and say, okay, this is the first. This is the front of the first example. This is the back of the first example. This is the front of the second example. This is the back of the second example. Do you see what I'm saying? You don't ever want to make your viewer have to wonder what they're looking at. Always make things as crystal clear as possible in your presentations. Okay, so I talked about the fact that each of the fronts have to have a tagline. Now the back, you've got an image, I'm not real sure where the timeline goes here. You've got some paragraphs and then you've got a chemical formula. We need a timeline on the back of the poster, okay? Over here, this is the back of the poster, and we have a photograph, and then you've got Oh, I see. This is 5 photographs. You only can use one photograph in this piece. And again, if we jump over, we can see that photographic imagery may only be used with the Nobel laureate on the back of the poster. I'll show you some examples in a second, but it's really important you go through the assignment specifications and instructions to ensure that you're handling your presentation correctly. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and talk about your actual visual correspondence. And I use that term, and I'm over in the presentation this week, week 5 presentation, the typographic message, evocative typography, signs, symbols, and semiotics. And if we come down here, I'm using the term visual correspondence to mean all of these, simultaneously transformation, substitution, and exaggeration. I want you to go through this presentation and really study these examples, really study them. If you go through, you see the example, you click that little eye up there, you can see, and you just got to kind of go through back and forth through the information and the images to kind of see exactly what the examples are referring to. But to a very high degree, the success of this project is going to rely on your use of these techniques and these strategies to create visual meaning and to connect your typography with the content of the project. Okay, so all right, so those things have got to be present. Now you're making some good connections here with this kind of chemical formula and substituting typographically for his name. That's good stuff, man. That'll work. That's exactly what we're looking for. Exactly what we're looking for is some sort of vision. Right here, you've got this visual substitution. You're substituting the O and the R with this chemical formula. Theoretically, you could take that same kind of configuration and move it to the back of the poster and use that to assemble your timeline. Okay, so really start thinking about how you're going to make these connections. A couple of areas in the class I want to draw your attention to. Of course, the first one is this that I just talked about. I also want to talk about, this is right here. This is the announcement. Okay, so if you come up in here and you take a look and go through this announcement, you'll see some really great examples of typographic visual correspondence right here. And these are fantastic. And start thinking about how you can employ these types of techniques in your own work, which your chemical formula is a really good example there. So, but I wanted to draw your attention to the bottom of this announcement where we really, these examples are gorgeous. So just real quick, this one is substituting the letter O for an illustration here. So this is a typographic solution. And then bringing that concept over to the back to create the timeline. This one creates this kind of pattern in the word M, which doesn't make sense till you get to the back of the poster. You see the pattern repeated, then you realize the pattern is out of her outfit. So another really, really cool technique there. And then this one is substituting the equal sign in Martin Luther for the E. So it's saying, it's equating equality with Martin Luther King. And then they take that equal sign and use it as the timeline on the back of the poster. So really cool stuff there. All right, so really think about this. Think this through. Go through those instructions. Go through the requirements for the milestones for week 5. And really, let's get this thing nailed down and get your presentation in order to include everything for Sunday's submission. If you have any questions at all, let me know. I'll be glad to clarify any confusion here. And then, and then looking forward to seeing your project on Sunday. Okay, again, any questions at all, get with me quickly. All right, thanks very much.